No.
Hey y'all, I am Jennifer Williamson. I'm an English professor in the communications department, and I have not always been a teacher. I previously worked in hotels and casinos, and I ran AirBnBs, including all of the AirbnBs for Magnolia and Waco. And so that was a super, super fun job. I continue to have my own Airbnb. And Cindy, our wonderful librarian here, asked me to come in and do a little presentation about Airbnb. And then my classes all showed up. Hey y'all, if you're in my class, be sure to sign in and get your bonus.
Everybody sign in.
Okay, also, I'm not a great public speaker. I dropped out of one of those Dale Carnegie public speaking classes. So if this goes badly, it'll be fine. So, Airbnbs. Everybody, well, except all of my students still are probably not interested in Airbnbs, but maybe other people are. So, I wanted to ask you about like your best hotel experience, right? What was your, I don't know, somebody over here, what was your best hotel experience? Think about something kind of great.
I'll say location to different venues.
Okay, so, location is important to you.
Sports
Okay.
venues, stuff like that.
Right, okay, so when you, like, think of, I guess what I'm thinking is like a very specific experience that you had, like at a hotel.
Cleanliness.
Cleanliness is important. Okay, think of like maybe the hotel itself, right? This is what I'm thinking. Like, what's your best ideas, right? Like the best thing that happened while you were at any hotel over your life. Like, think about the specific hotel. Think about what happened, kind of give me some ideas on that. You want it to be, I want it to be clean too. Well, for somebody else, it's a big deal.
Like events or the setup?
No, like the hotel itself. So like, yeah, I don't know, your best hotel experience, was it maybe like on your honeymoon? Like maybe they did like some cutesy setup for you on your honeymoon, or maybe you were there to celebrate something specific, or maybe you were just like traveling through somewhere and you had a really, really good hotel experience.
But I had some points I have been, well, one of the experience at one time for my job reserving, and they have like, they bring like a casino setup.
Oh, that's
with,
cool.
With all the games and stuff just for that night, just for a job.
Right.
And then the other one, when I take the kids, we have to have a pool, because
Yeah.
indoors.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So, like in this instance, everybody really went out of their way to make sure that your casino night was like spot on perfect,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah, they were really, they serve dinner, and then after that, they have, the games and stuff, and it was tickets,
Right.
the rifles. It was pretty nice setup.
It was a really fun setup,
It was
right?
somewhere in South Austin.
Okay, great, yeah. Okay, that's awesome. So they kind of went out of their way to make sure that your casino night was like the best that it could be, and you had a lot of fun, and it was very
It was
entertaining.
really similar, you couldn't tell it wasn't a hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it felt really legit, right?
Mhm.
Somebody went to a lot of trouble for that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. I assure you that they did. Yeah, they did. Yes. So you had a hotel experience too.
Yeah, the Grand View in Vegas.
Oh, that sounds so good. Yeah, right.
The spa tubs, the comfort beds, and the designing of the furniture.
Right.
It's so nice. It made it very comfy and,
Right.
what do you call it? Up to date, trendy. Yeah.
Trendy and modern, and really also like it sounds like it was welcoming and
The people, yeah, and the expedient of the service trying to get us into our rooms.
right. Okay, I'm gonna stop here because this is like exactly what I wanted, what you said there. Like, I mean, casino nights, for sure. But also, like, this is exactly what I was looking for, because like, for me, every really good hotel experience kind of starts with someone having thought through things very, very carefully. So, like, they thought through your bedding and your linens and the bathroom and the bathtub. Everything was like really well considered, right? And then also, I imagine that the staff was pretty great, because most of the staff in Vegas is kind of amazing.
Very friendly.
Right, really
Welcoming.
friendly, they're
Customer
welcoming.
service was excellent.
Yes, right? That's, I think, can we flip so that I can remember? I think that that's kind of the basis of hospitality. I think that it's when you're giving somebody a little something extra. I'm from Louisiana, y'all. Cindy is also from Louisiana. And she will tell you, lagniappe is kind of the thing that we do. It's a little something extra. Cindy's from New Orleans, y'all. It's that little something extra. It's having considered the bed linens, having considered, are people gonna use this bathtub, right? Like, how are people gonna use my space? How are people going to interact with the staff? What's that extra something that kind of puts us over the top? I think that this is what we're doing with hospitality. I think that this is really the basis of owning your Airbnb, right? A lot of people come into Airbnbs and it's just an income stream, right? It's just, well, I can make an extra however much a month that you can make doing it. But you can only make that if you're doing all of the fundamental stuff, right? I don't think it's a good idea to go into an Airbnb situation unless you kind of really like hospitality. This is not a job for people who want to be respected. No one respects you when you own an Airbnb, and everyone has snarky comments for you, including possibly your parents, because my dad, when I told him what I was doing, my dad said something to the effect of, "Are things so bad at your house right now that you have to rent out a portion of your own home to total strangers?" And I'm like, well, no, but thanks for phrasing it that way, Dad. Oh, I forgot this is going, I'm not going to tell my dad, don't tell my dad that it was awkward. But for us, when we moved here, my husband's obviously military. When we moved here, we had this old house, and there's like a guest house attached. And when we bought it, they had been separated. And we put them together. We took down a fence. We took down a fence and put through a driveway and reconnected the two houses. And I put the smaller house, the guest house, on Airbnb. And it's been so much fun. I love doing it. But it's not a job for someone who needs respect. You kind of have to be really humble. And you have to be charitable, right? You have to be charitable with your guests, right? Understand that guests are really, really vulnerable. Anytime that they're traveling, anytime that you're traveling, you don't sleep as well when you travel, right? Anybody sleep super well when they travel?
When you have to drive 12 hours.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, when you're entirely exhausted, yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, you're in a different bed, you don't know where you are, you don't know where your things are. Like, you have Google on your phone, but it's not really the same. You can't always trust those Google reviews, right? You can't always trust it to bring you where you're going the most expedient way, right? You have to understand that your guests are super vulnerable, and you have to be really humble, and you have to give them a lot of charity. And that kind of is what makes your Airbnb really special, when you think of your guests as people that you kind of want. And I know that that sounds silly, but I also think that, like, the philosophy behind it is what's important about Airbnb. Let's go to the next slide, right? Because Airbnb was primarily set up as a community. It was never set up to be what it's become today, where people use it as like a sole income stream, right? Like, that's all people do. They run these Airbnb corporatized, tiny houses or an Airbnb resort. That's not what it was designed to do. And I think that anytime you use it that way, you're going to be disappointed. I don't think you'll make, a ton of money doing it that way. Because if that's what you're interested in, if you're interested in a ton of these, the best way for you to make money is to set up like a resort, and you set up your own booking site, and you do everything outside of Airbnb. That's the best way to do that. If you want to use the Airbnb platform, the best way to do that is to treat it the way that it was designed to be treated. So Brian Chesky and Joe, this guy we don't like hear much about. Brian Chesky still runs Airbnb. But after they sold Joe Gebbia, do you know how to say that? Does anybody know how to say that? No. Okay. Well, that's fine. Do you have an idea?
Is it okay I take pictures of your
Of
slides?
course, yeah. Maybe if Cindy is willing to, and there aren't too many typos on them, we'll put them up. Okay. All right. Yeah. Because they're really just to kind of keep me on the rails, but also I also like being able to point to things, and sometimes I like drawing on stuff. So, but I'll try to stay over here, which is the point. So Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, however you say that guy's name, they lived in San Francisco in the early 2000s, and their rent was astronomical. Which I think it still is in San Francisco. I don't know. I'm not in California in a while. So they had this idea to put up an air mattress in their living room and advertise their airbed and accompanying breakfast on Craigslist. So, it seems like they should have been murdered. But they weren't murdered, which is lovely. I'm super glad that they weren't murdered. And this worked out well. They were able to pay the rent. Apparently, there were people who were willing to sleep on an air mattress in strangers' rooms. And these, turned out to be lovely young men. They would make people breakfast in the morning, and this is how they paid the rent. They also had jobs too, right? So this is how they paid the rent. After a couple of years of doing this, they set up a website to facilitate the same thing, right? People in large, really expensive places who, A, needed extra money, or needed a place to stay at a pretty cheap price, right? That's the origins of Airbnb. The rating system was designed to help guests and hosts kind of relate to one another. That's the origin of the rating system. And that's the origin of Airbnb. It's, I think, really special, and you start to see here, when you kind of understand how they started doing it, why the community aspect of it is so important. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay. So, that's all right. So once you understand kind of what people were doing, right? Like Brian Chesky was just setting things up in a way that made sense for both his family or his living situation with his roommate, and also in a way that made his guests feel kind of special, right? Because I imagine that that's pretty weird. So you have to be kind of a welcoming person to have somebody sleeping on an air mattress, a total stranger sleeping on an air mattress. And you know what? It's hard having family sleep on an air mattress in your living room. So having a stranger do that, and then you get up in the morning and they've got bed hair and they're waking up and you're in this tiny apartment kitchen making them breakfast, you have to be pretty open and welcoming. And last year, I guess it's so much for staying on the slides. Last year, Brian Chesky did this promotion where he had guests come and stay at his actual house. And he put them in his guest room and made them breakfast and did the whole thing. And I just thought that was kind of amazing, right? Because that's the spirit of Airbnb. Corporatized Airbnbs, they're just never going to be good, right? I don't think you're going to make any money. I don't think you're going to have any fun. And they're also not going to be good. I asked about good hotel experiences. Have people had bad Airbnb experiences? Anybody? Yeah. Hey Chelsea, tell me about that bad Airbnb.
I had an Airbnb in Tacoma, and we arranged with my family of 3 young children, to be there. And we were going to be in the lower level of the house, with its own bathroom facilities and everything, but we would have to enter through the main level of the home. Well, the Airbnb hosts were going to be gone for half of our stay, and they asked us to help them out with some things, like taking out their trash cans on trash day, feeding their outdoor cat. So, not only I was a house setter who was paying someone else to set their house, and it was extremely extremely expensive. When they came home halfway through our stay, as soon as I opened our door to enter the main level to exit the home, they would be right there, ready to interact with me, wanting to chat and talk. And we were there to see family, so we were already drained from the social and emotional conversations we were having with our family.
Yeah.
And it just added so much extra stress mentally and just logistically to our trip that I was like, I will never do that again.
Oh, no.
So that was my worst Airbnb experience.
It sounds really, really bad. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
And so that's, I hope, what we're avoiding here, right? Like, none of y'all ever do that. I don't want to hear about it. I've got your names. I better not find this out here, right, amongst y'all. Because that's awful. It's terrible, right? And it made you feel like an inconvenience. It made you feel not special. Like you were just a paycheck for them.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. That's awful.
And
That's
a
hard.
cat sitter.
And a cat sitter and the transportation outer.
It is a little worse, right? Yes, right? That's terrible. That's really awful. How are the ratings on that? I'd be interested to know.
Well, usually apparently they're there, and it just happened to coincide with the trip they were doing. So they were kind of doing us a favor. They don't normally Airbnb their home unless they're present.
Okay.
So the ratings were a little mixed, and it did say that they were very gregarious, very outgoing, big conversationalists.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, so I think that if people were visiting, hoping to chat and interact, I think they did have a lot of international guests who were interested to see how an American family lived,
Okay.
and that might have been the disconnect on some of the reviews.
Okay.
I was not interested to see how an American family lived. I just wanted to visit my family and sleep comfortably.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really awful. Hold on. I wanna move forward here. Let's move forward a couple. Let me see where we are, because that's kind of one of the things. I don't know if I actually put this on here. I don't think you should ever interact with your guests, right? Like the only interactions that you should have. Here, can you move forward another one? Let's see. Yeah, okay, so I don't think you should ever interact with your guests. Most of the guests that we have at the Bungalow, which is my Airbnb, the Blue Bonnet Bungalow, my middle name's Blue, we spell it B-L-U, no E, Blue Bonnet Bungalow, it's very cute. Most of the time, I never talk to them at all. I might see them or wave to them, and that's it, right? Because if your property's set up really, really well, you're not gonna ever have to talk to them, right? That's a terrible, here, let's back it up one. That's a terrible situation that you were in, and I try to avoid my guests. I'm more on the other side of things. I don't ever interact, and I don't think that you should. Because the more professionally you treat it, the better everything is gonna be, right? You're not their house guest. You wanna be loved like their house guest, but you wanna be, the beloved family friend that we don't actually have to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think the basis of Airbnb really is. Treat everybody like you love them, like they're the best thing ever. But definitely don't, but definitely don't interact, right? Most people don't want to, and I never want to. So we just keep it at a distance. Now, practical matter, you need to pay a lot of attention to practice when you're setting things up. If you are using your own home, right? Like in Chelsea's instance, where you are using your own home, you have to expect that there are going to be some interaction. For any of you thinking about using a spare room or a she shed or something, you get a separate house, right? Yeah, I think that's right. But if you are using your own home, that's totally doable. That's what Brian Chesky did, right? But it's not exactly that, right? Stop using your, like never, sorry, don't stop, don't ever start. Never use your guests as extra work or an extra employee, a house sitter. Always remember that they're your guests and see things from their perspective. Yes?
So, I got a question about,
Okay.
okay, so the taking out the trash thing, like, for me, that wouldn't have been alarming if I'm staying there during the trash day.
Okay.
I wouldn't have thought that that was, something that was a little over the top.
Okay.
Because I'm there during the time that the trash goes out, so I would assume that it would be my responsibility anyways. Now, the cat would have died. I would have been I would have But the trash can, I would have thought was alarming, so that's not something you should do, because to me, it's just kind of, like, I would assume that that would be the responsibility and the courtesy that I'm staying there, especially if they're not there. Now, if they
Right.
were there, which
Okay.
I just don't like people like that to be. Like,
I
I like
a
the,
little bit like not no people, right?
it's like, I like
When
the
you came in,
hospitality, I love hospitality, I'm very
Right.
friendly to people, and I can accommodate any situation.
Okay.
However, when I'm in my personal space, I don't wanna talk to outside people, I don't wanna do group activities, I don't wanna do any of that.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm in close proximity, I don't want you talking to me. I'm like you, just kind of, and keep it going, you
That's-
know?
And I find that most of my guests prefer that.
Yeah.
About the, about the trash thing, I mean, I guess you could negotiate that. For me, I don't ever want to do that. I don't ever want to break, kind of the barrier in between, like professionalism, right? So the way that the bungalow is set up, it's kind of on the, he takes out the trash, right? So number one, I never host when I'm not there, right? There have been occasions where I've had like an emergency and have to be out of town while a guest is there, and so I will, explain to the guest, like, hey, this thing is happening, and then I'll give them like our housekeeper's phone number, and explain to her, and she'll usually pick up the slack if there's a problem there. So, I always try to think of things from a guest perspective, right? They probably don't want to take out my trash.
But well, not your trash.
Right.
But,
Oh,
like, so if
their
you
own
have an
trash.
Airbnb house.
Yeah.
Where it's just your guests there.
Okay, and
So-
separate from your own.
Yeah, now if, I believe that, well, this is my way of thinking. If they're checking out on the day of trash day, I'm not saying, hey, make sure before you leave, you take it to the end, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But if trash goes out on Tuesday and you're staying there from Monday to Wednesday,
Yeah.
then, hey, don't forget, this, but I don't like last minute stuff, so I would say that when you give out the guidelines for the Airbnb, that you kind of say those that are renting the property during the time that the trash goes to the curb, you're responsible for it. Unless it's like their checkout, because then I wouldn't expect, oh, before you leave, go ahead and do that, I would just assume to do it. But if you're
Right.
there, I wouldn't wanna show up to
Okay.
be like, hey, is all the trash in here so I can take it to the curb,
So in this instance, what I would do, I would set up, like, make a note, right? Make a note to say, hey, listen, send a text that you're going to be there to take out the trash. Hey, look, I'm gonna be here at this time to take out the trash. That way, guests don't have to worry about accidentally running into you, right? Take whatever they put into the trash. I don't personally have really any rules. I have a single rule, which is please take off your shoes. That's the only rule. Does anyone take off their shoes? No, of course not. No one takes off their shoes. But I like shoes off at my house, in all of my houses. Like, so I put a little sign up that says, please take off your shoes. That's it. I don't have guests do any sort of, cleanup, like there are no checkout costs. I don't have a separate cleaning fee. I also charge twice what everyone else in my area does. You know what, can you go over to,
Airbnb I've ever been to, maybe like take the sheets off.
yeah, right, this is
Oh,
brutal,
wow.
this is brutal.
I wouldn't stay there.
I mean, you're already there, and you check in, and then when you get in, then there's the list of cleaning rules.
Yes.
After you already
Oh,
check
It's
in.
brutal, it's horrible, yes.
Yeah.
But this is a lack of hospitality. This is people who are using their Airbnb income to just pay a bill, right? They don't care about you. they're,
Honestly.
I mean, right? They don't. It's horrible. It makes you feel not special. That's why, hey, way to go. That's why the golden rule is so important. What's the golden rule, y'all?
Treat your guests the way you want it to.
Oh, it's up there, right? Okay. That. Treat the guests the way you want to be treated, right? You don't want to take out the trash or see the cat or do anything other than have a lovely time on your vacation. So that's what you're looking to provide your guests. That's what you want to provide. You want to provide this this feeling of being well cared for, but in a way that's not intrusive, right? So when I worked at Magnolia, we would kind of all rotate, staying at the Airbnbs. At that time, there were 4. This was before the hotel opened last year. So at that time, there were 4, and we would, occasionally everybody would stay at one of the houses, right? Just to make sure drains are not slow, and the carbon monoxide detectors are working, and all of these little things. The standard are, what is best practices? Best practices that you or one of your employees stays at your Airbnb at least once a month. I don't always pull that off because once a month is kind of a lot, but I'm down there double checking everything all the time. So staying at your there, double checking everything all the time. So staying at your property is important. That way you can figure out what you wish you had and that everything's working properly. Do you feel safe? This is one of the most important things, right? Part of the reason that people use Airbnbs is because for a long time we didn't feel safe in hotels, right? You remember Airbnb blew up during the pandemic. That's because we didn't feel safe in hotels. So safety is a really important feature of your property, right? If you're a family or a woman with a family, that kind of makes people more comfortable, right? It makes them feel like they're safe. So safety is really important. Is everything logical? If it's, is everything kind of where you need it? You've either been to these places or you've seen them on the internet where everything is labeled. That's so brutal. Your guests are not children. You don't have to label the cutlery drawer, right? That's horrible. Just put it in a logical location. All right, hold on. Let's see where we're going next. Okay, I don't remember the order that I put these in. Oh, treating your guests like they're really special, right? That's kind of, I think, the big deal. Hey, can you move forward to that review? One more? Oh, okay, don't be this head. Okay, so I have on my, we'll go to my link in a second. I have a lot of rules for guests, right? Not rules that are posted up, but a lot of rules on who I accept. So what's great about Airbnb is you don't have to accept every random person who requests to stay at your house. If you have a guest who has a 4-star rating, you don't have to accept that person. And I think that most Airbnb problems can be solved by only accepting, really good guests, right? So with this guest in particular, this guest's name is Timothy. He's one of my regular guests. He stayed with me 3 or 4 times. The first time that he stayed with me, he had this review, and there's so much snark from this guy, Donnie, who's not a very nice person, but there are words for the person that Donnie is, but I'm not going to use them here. Donnie left a 1-star review for my guest. His name is Tim, right? A 1-star review for Tim because they had some sort of miscommunication. Well, because all of this is public, this host, Donnie, all of this is public on Donnie's Airbnb hosting account, right? So you can see that Donnie treats his guests like crap, right? He lists all of the things that he thinks Tim did wrong, right? There were HOA restrictions that Tim apparently didn't do properly. he was supposed to be out of the house at this certain time, and then he wasn't. Like, there was some sort of confused messaging, and they gave him a 1-star for communication. Like, all of this stuff on poor Tim. And so I read all of this, and all of Tim's other reviews are 5-star. And so I messaged him, and I'm like, hey, look, you've got this bad review. Because I'm really honest with people. Like, this is how I talk to everybody, right? I'm really honest with Tim, and I'm like, hey, you get this super bad review. What's going on here? And he's like, well, there was just some miscommunication. And I'm like, okay. So he comes to stay at the bungalow. An amazing guest. In the 4 years that I have been doing Airbnbs, I've had a grand total of 3 bad guests. 1, 2, 3. And one of them left me a review that was like a poem written to how lovely the bungalow was. Who's still a bad guest there? I can't help that. These things happen. But in 4 years and 120 some odd guests, I've only had 3 bad guests, right? And Tim was not one of them, right? But for Donnie, every guest had a review listing everything that that guest had done wrong. Nobody wants to stay with Donnie because he's not a very nice person, right? Here, let's go forward. Oh, okay. Instead, you want to be this host. That's me, right? Okay. So I do review guests, right? I always review guests, and I review them with a star rating. So here, can you go back to like the star emoji thing? Let's see. Here it is. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. You're where you need to be. I always review guests, and I give them 5 stars, or on the, those 3 occasions, a single star. That's all that your future guests or your future hosts need to know, right? 3 people, 4 years, only 3 have ever gotten a 1 star from me, right? And that's it, right? That's all you need to do. Never, ever, ever say anything bad. Never, ever reply to a bad review. I've got 1 4-star review. I did track that woman down to her home, and we talked about it, and we tried to. I was like, no. I did not.
He will come after you.
Review. Can you guys wait?
to be like, I drove.
She's fine. It's fine. Right. Oh, here, you know what? Pull up. Would you pull up the bottom one? The bottom one's me. Well, maybe not. It's control click, I think. Okay, so he's about to pull up the bungalow. So when you are on Airbnb, I think that the minimum in order to activate the algorithm is 5 reviews. So the algorithm that shows you your Airbnb options is based on a number of things. Hold on, let me see. What are those things? Ratings, reviews, and reliability.
You have to have 5 reviews to get stacked, doesn't it make sense?
You have to have 5 reviews before it triggers the algorithm. So the algorithm. No, I need the bungalow side up, please.
This one?
No, I need the actual website. So the link, if you could pull up my. No, I need the bungalow.
All right, let me find it.
All right, he's finding it. So when you start Airbnb, when you're brand new, before you have 5 reviews, Airbnb will kind of promote you a little bit. They'll move you up based on like your location and kind of what's going on in your area, right? So for new ones, and it will put like a little star beside your Airbnb that says new, right? Once you've got your 5 reviews, then it triggers the algorithm. The algorithm is based on ratings, which is like the star ratings, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, right? Ratings and reviews. Reviews are like what people write about staying with you. Because every guest has an opportunity to write something public about their visit with you. This is the big one now. they just did an update because Airbnb ratings and reviews are highly inflated, right? A lot of the time, you're staying with people, you're meeting them personally, and you're not entirely comfortable leaving a horrible review. So, in order to counteract that, weekends, I'm only open weekends right now, just FYI. And I'm pretty sure that's in euros, but okay. So, well, where was I? I got lost. Oh, reliability. So, to counteract the inflated reviews, the newest algorithm from Airbnb starts factoring in reliability. Reliability is how often your property is reviewed. So how often it's listed, right? Because right now, at the bungalow, we're only listed on weekends because I'm up here like all the time. So, your list, we still have it down there?
Maybe just search them a little bit.
Yeah, you could just, okay, go to Google and put in Bluebonnet Bungalow Temple. I feel like you should know those. So the reliability portion is what takes up the largest portion of the algorithm now. So it's how well you rank based on how often people review you. So properties that are seldom reviewed. There we go. All right, and I'm just gonna stop right here because that took a minute because I just got to a point that I want to be at. So here we go. It's not working out. I really thought that was user error. Sorry.
I thought you were treating people the way you want to be treated.
Right? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Cindy's on your side. All right. Let's see. Let me find one that I know is seldom reviewed. Okay, so this is Magnolias, right? This is Hillcrest Estate. This is one of the ones that I manage. So you see here, Hillcrest is seldom reviewed, and that is because it's a corporate, it's like a corporate entity. A lot of people just kind of come and stay to leave. Like we put it out on Airbnb, but it's really just a part of Magnolia, right? So you see right here, we have like, it's beautiful, it's great. And then we have all of this stuff right here. Okay, now the bungalow, which is mine, is right here. You see right here, guest favorite, all of this stuff, and you see I'm top 5%. It was 1% when I took that picture, and that's the one that I used, obviously. It was 1%, but then I raised my prices really high, and that will affect your value rating when you do that. So, hey Matt, would you toggle back to Hillcrest for me? So you see right here, 498 versus where I am, and 499, right? What is the salient difference there? The only difference, well, there are other differences, right? But the only real difference from a rating standpoint is that I'm right here, top 5%. I'm very highly rated, and I'm often rated. My guests always, always, always rate me. And part of that is because Airbnb sends you like a million reminders, but also I always rate my guests, right? So you always need to rate your guests because it reminds them to rate you. And your rating really, really matters. Because, can you go back to Airbnb, just like let's try that one. How about that one? All of these are super highly rated. Airbnb likes money, right? So they're putting out the properties that are being rented all the time, are being rated all of the time, and that's the That's the real value of getting those ratings and reviews. All right, I'm gonna kind of wrap it up because I feel like we've been talking for a really long time. Okay, can we go back to the slideshow real quick? Rating system, let's see, Airbnb ratings are often inflated. Okay. And last thing, most important part, humility, charity, anticipating needs, loving your guests. You love your guests. And always give them just a little bit of something extra. All right, not great at wrapping things up. Okay, questions, who's got a question? Anybody have a question? Or are y'all just tired of me talking now? Yeah, wait, yes.
How do you get to the point of getting those ratings?
You kind of have to put it out there, right? So when I first started, I had my prices set pretty low. I made sure that my schedule was like always open. It was open all of the time, right? I never, like right now, I'm closed down during the week because I am here. But I priced things very, very low in order to get really, really great reviews. And I knew that people were going to be super pleased, right? Because I'm a great host.
Airbnb itself, how much do they charge you to actually use their platform?
Their platform is 3%, right? So 3% from me, and I think, what is it, like 6% to guests? It's something like that. So 3% for me, 6% to guests. So your guests are paying significantly more. Yeah, now, what Airbnb will also do is show you what your guests are paying. So my guests pay $200 a night. Yeah, and so you don't have to calculate that, it'll show you exactly. I don't make $200 a night, that's what my guests pay. Yeah. Here, wait, we'll take from the audience, then we'll do these, you'll be fine.
Do they put like a minimum or a cap on how much you can charge for the property?
No, and, oh my gosh, during the eclipse, I made so much. And it was crazy, wasn't it crazy? Could you believe that? Yeah, during the eclipse, it was like, what, I charged a lot. It was great.
5,000.
You can put it as high as you want.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, yes. And there's also a pricing, you can either set your own prices, or there's a pricing algorithm that will like adjust based on other properties in your area. So you have like a minimum, and then it will adjust up and down. Yes.
So what's the point of the separate cleaning fee? Is that out of
I
the
don't have a
percentages?
I don't have a separate cleaning fee.
So it's up to the actual owners of the property?
I'm the owner.
No, I'm saying like,
The people that do charge the cleaning.
Yeah, I think that they're just being jerks.
yeah.
Honestly, because like, I think that should be bundled into your stay.
It's like staying at a hotel, right?
The
hotel does your linen, takes out your
Yeah,
trash.
that's exactly right. I factored that into my nightly price. The extra cleaning fee, it's really just a way for people to make additional money. And I honestly, I just disagree with it. I think it's not very hospitable. I don't think it's a nice way to love your guests. Of course.
So, we got a family member that has Airbnbs.
Right.
And when they first started, like you said, that the rating for the, I guess the 5 days or whatever, most of the Airbnbs have the minimum days
Right,
that you should,
yeah.
like usually it's like you have to rent it out for 2 days. So they started off with the 1 day.
Yes, right, that's another
They
good way, yeah.
Did pay the price for it because they
It was
had
hard to
people
find.
trying to do parties, and even though there's no parties, they have game rooms in some of the areas, and so I actually was like, if you have a game room, it's gonna encourage people to have like
Yeah.
parties, which it did. But they only did it to break the barrier so they could get the superhost status,
There you go, right,
and
yeah.
then they shifted.
That's actually a great point, right? I think that's brilliant. So like if you wanted to, like when you start out, if you wanted to host something, or you can put it under, there's a separate section on Airbnb for like events. You can say, hey, this is also available for events, right? Yeah, and that will help you get those ratings too. And then you can charge things differently there. So if you want to charge a separate cleaning fee because it's an event and not a regular visit, that's an option that you can kind of play
I
with as
know
well.
for her guest, she does do a cleaning fee.
Okay,
I didn't really understand it at first, because but they do pay the hotel, the cleaning staff to come in
Okay.
and clean up. But over the time, we've seen where this cleaning fee goes to things like, people that throw parties or shouldn't throw parties. But now they have stuff that is stained that can't get clean, towels and stuff that they're replacing because they can't get it clean. So those cleaning fees go to buying new towels when they can't get them clean.
Yeah.
They've had stuff happen to sheets that are unbelievable.
See,
People are just
okay,
mad.
what I might say is that maybe they need to be a little more selective.
Yeah.
Now, I'm naturally
They're
really.
new.
Yeah, oh, they're still new,
And
okay,
they've been less than a year.
yeah, right.
But they went at it aggressively. They have like 5 houses now.
Oh my gosh,
We just
okay.
went down this weekend to help them get their last house.
Yeah,
But now they are more selective.
that's great, okay. So
And then
then
some
those-
of them you just don't know, like the towels and stuff. She has makeup towels. That's
Yeah,
a must.
right.
Because
The
you
makeup,
stain.
you know, that's a good point too. Makeup towels are a must. I buy gray towels because like it's super hard to keep white perfect.
Yeah, they got white.
Yeah, okay, so that's really hard too. So like, there's a here, can we go back to practical matters? There's like a section on practical matters, right? That might be like a practical matters issue. It's just like, go ahead and get gray towels and just kinda, right, like, I just made everything else in the bathroom gray, right? So that like, it kind of flowed and made some sense. Yeah, but same, like makeup towels are really, really great to have. Stuff that you need, like a lot of time, linens, I know that you've all heard terrible horror stories about like, oh, I got to my Airbnb and there were no sheets, or there was no extra toilet tissue, right? Like, you gotta figure that out. Like, I've heard people talk about their guests like they're the worst people ever, right? Like, I am super selective about my guests, but also like, I've never had anybody do anything super weird, right? Like, what is happening? What is that? Okay, well, they dropped that price down and they wanted to get people in, so I get that.
And
Now-
their cleaning fee is not outrageous.
Not outrageous,
It's
right?
not-
Okay,
It's not outrageous where you're sitting there like, wow, I'm paying.
And I don't think people
$250
get
or something.
upset about it,
Yeah.
like a normal cleaning fee. But for me, I just put it into the price and I make more money that way because it's just factored in. My nightly price.
It's psychological.
I
It's
think
just
so,
kind of like
yeah.
when you shop off of Amazon,
Yeah.
you'll go for the one that's free shipping. Even though it may be cheaper, but because they're charging you $6 to ship it, you're like, why am I paying an extra $6? But the
You think
total
that,
price
yeah.
could be like the product itself and free shipping, and
Yeah.
you'll go for it just because it's like, is this worth the $13 or is this worth $13 and then having to pay $6 extra?
That's a really good point, because my housekeeper is amazing, which also, like, if you have separate houses, you have to find an amazing housekeeper. So my housekeeper is amazing, she's like right there with me on like all of this stuff. And she makes the same price, whether I charge a cleaning fee or whether I roll it into my nightly price. We make more money when it's rolled into the nightly price. So, and oh, yes,
How are you picking the people when you say you're selective?
okay, can you pull my, my Airbnb back up? Or the website back up, and we'll have a look at my reviews. So, first of all of your guests get a rating, right? If you're a guest who does not have a rating, you can't stay with me. Also, if you're bringing your kid, you can't stay with me, right? Like, I love pets though, pets are great, cute pets. So, like,
Pet to the kid?
hell yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I would.
Say-
Oh, I'm sorry, kids. Oh,
They're
I
not
apologize.
going
Yeah, pets. Yay, pets, kids. No, thank you. Kids are,
Kids have thumbs and able to write and draw.
that's exactly right. And I also found that, most of my guests are older anyway, because we only allow 2 guests, right? For a while, we allowed 4, but then I needed a place to put my treadmill, because I didn't want it in my house anymore, and so then we made an exercise room at the bungalow. Now we only allow 2 guests. So there's also extra storage at your Airbnbs. All of these guests, every single person, scroll if you would please. 119 of them, every single one of these is 5-star. Every guest is 5-star, and I rate them. But, well, that's not true. I've got the guy who put up the, I wish I could remember that guy's name. It's down, I think it's from like 2022. The one who wrote a poem about the bungalow. He was not a good guest, but he's like it. Everybody else is a good guest, yeah.
So how would you handle a person looking to stay at your property that you don't want to stay there?
Well,
deny
you just
them,
reject
or-
them, yeah, you just reject them. And I've come up with, I have it saved somewhere, in like my replies about like, oh, you know, I don't think that the bungalow will be a very good fit for you because you have a 2-star rating. Right, but like the example that I gave about Tim though, Tim and his previous ratings, I saw that all of his previous ratings were 5 stars. And so I messaged him and said, hey Tim, I see that all of your previous ratings are 5 stars. What's going on here? And he's like, well, we had a miscommunication and that's why I have that bad review. I'm like, okay, come to the bungalow. Tim's a great guest. Tim still books with me today, right? So, I mean, like, be practical, be, I don't know, kind of conscientious of, like, occasionally, sometimes weird things will happen. But if you have a guest who only has, like, 2 reviews and one of them is super bad, like, yeah, right? Yeah, right, this is a 50-50. I'm not, right, like, that's just, I'm sorry, the bungalow doesn't, and the phrasing that I use, I think, is something like, I don't think that the bungalow will suit your needs because of your terrible star rating. That's the undertext, that's the subtext there, but what I say is, I'm not sure that the bungalow will suit your needs.
Which almost makes them feel comfortable, like, oh, well, yeah, maybe I wouldn't, because my needs
Yeah.
can be, and then they go in their own mind, like, oh.
That's exactly
at least it's
right.
truthful.
Yeah, right, and it's true too, right? Because if you're coming into the bungalow to have a party, like, you don't want to do that in my house anyway, right? You wouldn't want to do that there, right? My house is so boring and we like it we like boring, right? Right, it's peaceful. Yeah. So, other questions, right? Oh, hey,
Okay, I'm new at this, so I have a rental down here to make into an Airbnb. It's a 4-bedroom with an enclosed patio and a large yard with a patio outside with the cement. Anyway, I was thinking because I didn't want no crazy people coming and messing my house up.
Yeah.
My rental, that's why I'm not having any more rentals because my tenants are, the last one were crazy. So I said, well, I'm gonna go to Airbnb with it. But I'm just gonna do 2 rooms.
okay.
This is the reason why, I was just gonna do it, cater it out to professionals, like,
Okay.
and that's when that rating comes in, where I'm making an office, I'm making 2 bedrooms, the other room I just use as storage.
That's fine.
Is that a good idea for a starter?
I would suggest that you put like a coded lock on that door so that your guests know, like, hey, this is just not available. Yeah. Right, and your guest, I mean, you can put something like on the door that says like, not available, or cleaning closet, or, you know, whatever, and you just put a coded lock on there. There you go, no guest access, yeah, right?
She said something about if you have a big room, there would be a party in there, but then
Not a big room,
yeah.
but
She
like,
had a game
like,
room, right?
yeah, our family, had a game room where they turned, the garage was like closed in.
Yeah,
So they
right.
bought this property purely for Airbnb and they made a game room, so it has the pool table, it has like a big tic-tac-toe, it
Yeah,
has,
right.
like, it's some amazing stuff in
That
there,
does
it's
sound
great
really
if you
good.
have
Yeah.
like a family.
Yeah.
But then, you gotta think, you're close to a military base, soldiers, it's just a party waiting to happen.
We're trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Soldiers are lovely.
They can be.
So just
Yeah.
like 2 teeny white people. I retired
Yes,
military
right,
too,
okay,
And
yeah.
I was just gonna cater to just,
So
the
I
teeny
think
white
that's
people.
great. Just be really careful about who you select, right?
Okay.
Who you allow in, right? Set up something as an office, right? And kind of sell it that way. So you'll see, would you close out of my ratings and scroll up to like the top? So you see, here we are, the Blue Bonnet Bungalow, but my tagline is guest house minutes from the hospital, right? Because that's what I'm selling, right? I'm selling, hey, we're downtown, we're close to the hospitals, we have, you know, we're gonna make you comfortable, but we're also primarily for older people, right? Like, no offense to all of my young students, but like, old people are quiet and pleasant and they pay their bills, and I love that. So like, that's how we came up with this particular tagline. If you wanna scroll down, we can look here. You see, I'm top 5%, pretty proud of that. And then right here, this is your, this is like your little blurb about your house. Sparkling clean, newly remodeled, the Blue Bonnet Bungalow in People's Historic District is a peaceful stay in a quiet neighborhood. You don't have a ton of space here. I want to say that it's, I can't remember how many words in it. Would you press that button real quick? Thank you. I can't remember how many words it is, but they cut you off at some point. So you have to keep it pretty brief. Focus on the things that you want to focus on. So let's see, like all of this stuff kind of tells you about what's in the house, but there's also like a list of amenities that you check off, right? Have coffee makers, have an easy to use coffee maker, like an espresso or a Keurig, something that's like a pod that people don't have to think too much about. All of this stuff, like keep it brief, but focus where you want it, right? Like I want people to stay and maybe cook. I want people to work, right? I get a lot of people in for work. Let's see, and also be really, really honest. So the bungalow is divided from your host, that's me, your host's personal residence by a driveway. It has its own garden yard and patio spaces. That divided by a driveway means, please don't start with the driveway, right? That's a nice way of saying. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't had guests. We had guests during the ice storm of 2022, and there is like a paved walkway up to my kitchen door, so like you can, like it's and it's also lit. It is also a lighted walkway, but still, right? Like we added this about the driveway. After that, because this guy is at my kitchen door going, hey, what's up? And I'm like, hey. It was a smidge awkward, but also that's one time. Like one time in an ice storm in 4 years, right? Like